Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Really, turning 54 was the big one for me, because once you turn 54, you can, I bicycle. I could race in the 55 to 60 age group. Because my race age would be 55. So that was the big one for me. That was actually the first time that getting older was like a good thing since I turned 21. I was like, yes. And it paid off too. I'm number 17 in the country in my age group in the 100-mile road race. Awesome. So it paid off.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Anyway, so if you haven't noticed, I turned on recording because I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. So if you don't want to be seen, turn off your camera. But we'll throw this one up on the wall. The last meeting we had, the presenters, I didn't record it at the request of the presenters. 2 weeks ago, I believe we had a session and I did record that one, which is up there. So anyway, today there's a lot of news on OpenAI. And so Syed and I chatted and we said, probably what would be interesting is to spend the presenter time today and discuss that news with them. Before we do that, I just want to give an update on the group. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, looking for ways to grow the group, I reached out to some of our professors, connected with Dev Shah, who led the Introduction to AI landscape. And he was, first off, very happy to hear from us. He said he started the course at the beckoning of his students because they thought that the decision-making framework that he'd come up with would be suitable to launch online. And he introduced me to a member of his team for his for-profit company, which is a no-code company. And the guy's like a chief evangelist and has a learning platform. And so wanted to see if he could, we could look at how to grow the group that way. I haven't heard back from him. I'm going to ping him again. So we'll see there. I also reached out to MIT Professional Education directly. I was sort of hoping we would have another route in to that, maybe through the professors. But in any way, if anyone has any contacts there, I know there's a few people in that organization. I went to their marketing person because I figured I could sell a marketing story to them as a marketer myself. But there's probably other routes into that organization as well. So if you know of any, as a last resort, we could go and talk with Great Learning and some of those platforms. But I feel like I wanted to start as broad as possible since MIT works with different partners for their AI courses, and see if we could open up something for AI more generally. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at. I'll keep you guys posted on it. And with that, we will shift over. So Syed, I'd say let's do this. Let's go to 1240. 12:45, and then that'll give time for a stand-up for whoever wants it. I'm not going to do one because I will be talked out at that point. Probably have a few more people that have joined by then. And Syed and I haven't rehearsed, so this is sort of impromptu. Neither of us knows what the other is going to say. But let me just tee up what the scope of, I think, where we want to talk about. There's two big things that have happened. One is big from a technology standpoint, and one is big from a business and possibly bigger implications. I tempted to use the word humanity, but that may feel oversell, but it's big. First, 2.5 weeks ago, OpenAI had their developer conference. At that conference, they announced, for those who haven't seen, OpenAI's models, other than possibly, with the possible exception of Midjourney, they have the best models that are commercially available. They're more capable than really anything out there in terms of generative AI, general use generative AI that's commercially available. And they basically came out and they announced improvements to those products at the same time announcing a reduction in cost. And increase that combined puts them not only ahead of the others, which they already were, but in so far ahead, it feels like they're playing in a different game now. I would not want to work for some of the other companies, at least prior to Friday and the news that happened on Friday. We will dive into some of those announcements, but they basically have to do with the context window which has quickly gone from 16K to 32K to now 128K, which depending on how you measure it is between 100 and 300 pages of text that you can shove into a prompt and get a response. We'll talk more about that because there are some downsides to that. If you've worked with the prompts, you know, less is not always, more is not always more. That's one. Second, they've gone multimodal in a big way. So now images, video, audio can come in and have become to go out of the large language model. So it's not just a large language model anymore. It's a large context model, I would describe it as. And thirdly is, what was third? More embracing of programming languages, native work with programming language, so they can output things that are strictly conform with JSON and therefore can be used directly in programs. That could take place before, but now apparently there are ways to do it where it can produce code that complies with structure, and they apparently are promised repeatability, meaning you can ask the same thing several times and always get the same answer if that is a mode that you want. That wasn't possible before. Those are the big ones I know. So there's that. We're going to dig into that and what that means, and I think I probably didn't cover everything there. And then we're going to move to the news Friday to Monday to now Tuesday, what's happened with the leadership of OpenAI, the nonprofit, which sits on top of the limited partnership for profit underneath it, that probably most people didn't even pay attention to the fact that there were two different things until Friday. And now those who were not very close to OpenAI are now aware of some of the dynamics that have shaped OpenAI to who they are today, and now what's taken place over the weekend with the firm. So two big topics. I think either one would serve as an entire discussion here. You put them together and you have basically starting to shape, you know, what's going to happen in the generative AI field, which probably, given where the money is at, is shaping all of AI, at least in the near term. So I'm going to tee it up, flip it over to Syed to dig into part of that you want to, and we'll just kind of riff on it.
Yeah, Drew. So Friday we got a news that Sam got. Literally the news was like, you know, Sam got let go, Sam got fired, and the reason was that the board and Sam was having a gap in communication. So that was the blog came out on, you know, OpenAI's website. Everybody jumped into it and understanding like how, like, for me as a person like into the tech, I would be like, Sam is the one I started trusting. You know, I trusted, like, you know, if I'm going to do some work with Gen AI, you know, Sam is the guy who would be releasing some stuff and I'm gonna just follow him, right? So at that time, like having this, you know, feeling that Sam is going on, I jumped into, you know, X, Twitter, other areas to figure out what's happened. So first of all, it looks like that, you know, people discussed about like it could be a, you know, issue with his character or something. That's why they, like, you know, sometimes something comes out and, you know, they let go the person, say that, you know, come back as again as a CEO, but that was not the case. That happened on Friday night, and then even in Friday evening we got to know at the same time on Twitter that the employees who are getting to know that Sam is let go are reacting. So the first one who to react was, and even though he was let go after this reaction, was the Greg. Greg is again one of the founding members of OpenAI, and he also stated that, you know, he was blindsided, he didn't know, even though he was the member of the board as well. So something was going on there. So the conclusion on the Twitter was, you know, I was also making the self conclusion. So something came out on around Friday evening, like late Friday evening, was that it could be a possibility that some kind of an ethical issues are there with the AI itself, like ethical or maybe security issues, which Sam was aware, and he still released, and he still talk about the dev day, like he was um, like they wanted to stop the dev day and answers those concerns regarding the securities and issue and then move forward, but Sam stick to the dev day and he released whatever the product were there. So that was another, people were talking about that part as well. But on Saturday mornings, and now this is happening and everybody's gone home. So Saturday morning and around 11, 12 p.m., people started talking about 11 a.m. in the morning, people started talking about that it could be a possibility that even the two people from the board, I'm not two, but one is his name is Elia. I don't know how we pronounce it. So
Ilya,
Ilya,
Ilya.
Ilya, who is the chief scientist, right? He is the main person who raised the concern that Sam and Greg are not the right people to run this company. And he stated the main reason here is that the company was started, as you said, that as non-profit organization. They actually they gather the fund or they raise the fund on the basis of that, hey, we're not going to go with the commercialization, we want to build a product, we want to build a happy AI product, machine learning product, so no pressure on us. So the main thing was that the pressure coming from for the agility and releasing the product, we don't want that. We are a company who would do the research and we will come out with the product and we will sell those product to the um, big companies like Microsoft or AWS and XYZ. But looks like that Sam was pressurizing them to release the product as soon as possible, like the way the market works today, which he was not wrong. So that was one of the gaps which we see there. And then around evening, we got to know that all the employees on the Twitter started talking about leaving the company if Sam is not reinstated as a CEO once again. So that happened, and at that time, I just realized that even there was a game on Sunday. It's a big game in Southeast Asia, and it's called cricket. And cricket World Cup final was there, and India was playing, and most of the world, actually eyes and techs are on that World Cup. So there was a reason that Sunday was busy for many of the people as well. But Saturday, what people started talking about that Microsoft and Satya also have a big role in this because they are the biggest investor. But they are the biggest investor into the non-profit organization, so they could not pressure this company to build something or release some product. But at least they will be able to guide them to build the secure product as well. And we saw that, right? Microsoft started taking over OpenAI, like they built their own Azure cloud, and that there's a especially like strategy and tactical reason behind it is because they are competing with AWS and they are competing with Google, and they must be having some kind of a competition clause that OpenAI cannot sell their product or have partnership with these two other cloud giants. So the strategy for Microsoft was pretty clear, and they might wanted to take it over as well. So understanding this, I did tweet it on Saturday night. I was showing that to True that it was late on Saturday night, but we realized that what's going to happen is the outcome would be pretty simple. That Satya would offer Greg and this guy Sam to work with Microsoft as a subsidy company and build something like OpenAI because they already know how to build that. So definitely they're going to build that large language model or small language models out there. And this is what you're going to see, that there will be some small language models coming out of Microsoft in coming days, which will be built by Sam and his team to release it to the enterprise level as well. So that being said, Sunday was like Sam went to the office, and then he had a discussion. But the board, again, board is very strong. Like board is with four different people as well who are not much related to OpenAI, but they are the board people. One is the ethical AI person. I forgot her name. Uh, Helen. The other is Tasha. Tasha is another board person, but she's the wife of famous actor. And then one is D'Angelo. He's the person from the Quora. It's a question answer website. And the last one is I think this is another person who is again, I mean, the investor, right? So they stood firm. They said that, it's more about the ethical AI, and this is something we are gathering from the conversations happening, within Twitter and everywhere, that this firm is all non-profit organization, and Sam is coming from a background where he want to build great products. So building great products mean great pressure, and this research organization does not require that, right? So if you want to build product, you have what you want, go out somewhere and build that. You cannot lead this company because this company will be run by scientists and they will keep doing their researches and bring some products. Um, that being said, looks like that moving forward, and I'm going to open this for discussion, is that OpenAI, if Sam and Greg are not there, who are the one who are the running the show? And again, today me and Drew are having this conversation, right? If you want to build some great products, it's not that you have to do 100% technology or you have to be 100% business acumen. It's a combination. So Sam, Greg, and um, Elia, and the other person who was the CEO, CTO, what was her name? I mean, this another person, and she was the CTO. So they were the perfect combination. They knew what they're building, and if they rely on Sam to bring some kind of a capital to do some, like, research, and Sam was great. He did not bring in the money, but he did the right partnership with right people. Like, he knew Azure cloud would be required, the cloud would be required, so he had a partnership with Microsoft. He knew that some of the capital would require, but the partnership was based on most of the partnership was based on, like, hey, give us the technology and we'll give you some shares back of this OpenAI as well. So Nvidia was involved, Microsoft was involved. So Sam did great. So he did his part, what is required. Now the model has been built. But for OpenAI in today's world, he would not be the person who would build the product in OpenAI moving forward, because he
It's,
did what he wanted to do. Now he'll move and do the same thing for Microsoft, where this company is commercialized and they build commercial product. So I think that's the right fit for him. Last comment is that it could be possible that OpenAI realize they're going to change their structure, and maybe 3 4 months back they will ask them to come back and do the product thing. Otherwise, OpenAI will only be a name or institute. It won't be a commercialized company. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, it makes sense to change leadership as the mission or trajectory of an organization changes. If that's what's happening here, it makes sense.
Yeah. No, he asked for that changes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sam is a startup guy. Y Combinator is a startup guy. No, I think it's so hard to judge. It's so hard to judge. It's tough. In terms of catching up, I was looking at the number of parameters that OpenAI has versus the other large language models. So ChatGPT versus Bard versus Llama versus Flam ULV2 versus Bloom. So you guys really think that nobody can catch them anymore?
It's
Why?
just a matter of time.
Here's I'm going to tell a story here that leads me to think that this situation with Sam is indicative of something far bigger going on. Because he was let go immediately on the basis that he had withheld information and that he could not be trusted, and that information that was withheld prevented the nonprofit board from carrying out its duties. Let's look at that company. The company we're talking about is a nonprofit. Underneath it is now a limited partnership. It started out and still is a nonprofit, and on that board are no investors. It's nonprofit. It has a fiduciary duty stated in its charter to humanity. And there's some conditions under which it must operate and conditions under which in its charter it must cease to operate. I want to read to you some of that charter. It was created in 2018. The charter says, this document reflects the strategy we've refined over the past 2 years, including feedback from many people internal and external to OpenAI. The timeline to AGI remains uncertain, but our charter will guide us in acting in the best interests of humanity throughout its development. OpenAI's mission, this is the nonprofit, which owns the limited partnership, which has accepted investment dollars. OpenAI's mission is to ensure that artificial general intelligence, AGI, by which we mean highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work, benefits all humanity. We will attempt to directly build safe and beneficial AGI, but we'll also consider our mission fulfilled if our work aids others to achieve this outcome. To that end, we commit to the following principles. I want to repeat what that just said. We will attempt to directly build safe and beneficial AGI, but we'll consider our mission fulfilled if our work aids others to achieve this outcome. And then there's a list of things: broadly distributed benefits, long-term safety, technical leadership, cooperative orientation. These are in the actual charter of the nonprofit. This isn't a mission statement, fuzzy stuff. This is what the board is legally bound to. And by the board, Sam.
The cat's out of the bag, Drew. The whole world wants this now. This AI, this nonprofit crap, it's out of the window, man. Everybody, people in the Middle East are pouring money into this. At a certain point, people are going to leave OpenAI to go somewhere else. All this kumbaya stuff, it just doesn't fly in the world. It's just a matter of moments until somebody has a more efficient model. In my opinion, this worked in the beginning for them to get a ton of money to start for free, and they changed their character. I don't think that matter whether Sam is there or not at this point. I honestly think that the AI model is very much like we'd learned at no code AI. It's all the same building blocks. It's just how much money do people pour into it?
Yeah.
Who can you hire? How do you give them the right stock options? How can you go public fast enough?
The real
Google. We're looking at so many companies. I don't even think OpenAI or Google or Microsoft is going to be the big winner. It's like the browser wars. I think in a couple of years it's going to be somebody else, and there's too much of a mess. Like this weird company that's a bit of a nonprofit, a bit of this. It's not a straight play. This is, at the end of the day, is just IT. It's just a couple of smart scientists. They're going to be newer, smarter scientists coming down the pipeline. I've heard from people that there are a lot of other models that are much smaller and cheaper, and they perform almost as well. They're not as good, but the marginal improvement is not worth the marginal cost. So, man, that's my gut. That's my gut.
Yeah, in my mind, it's like, okay, we know about the models that are released, but how many models are in development that we don't know about? And is it really better to have kind of a very large, widely applicable general LLM, or many more domain specific LLMs? Right? Which performs better?
In June, OpenAI announced that Ilya, one of the co-founders, helped write this document for a nonprofit that's dedicated to artificial general intelligence that outperforms humans at most economically valuable work. Announced that he would be leading a group to provide a feedback mechanism for superintelligence. Meaning our current models use human feedback to tell whether they're working well. Well, what happens if those models are smarter than humans? Suddenly you need a new kind of feedback mechanism, and that's called the alignment mechanism. They started that in June and dedicated 20% of the 10 billion, which we now know to be 13 billion that Microsoft offered up in different forms, mostly compute, to that purpose. So just want to paint a picture here. A company, nonprofit, with a mission, not just a mission, a charter that they are bound to, unceremoniously fires the co-founder 6 months before, and the basis of a company that has indicated that its mission is AGI. By the way, its partnership with Microsoft excludes AGI, and they cannot share IP with Microsoft on AGI. They cannot partner with Microsoft on AGI. They cannot use the compute resources of Microsoft on AGI. June, ILIA, they announced they're going to spend 20% on an alignment mechanism. Why would you need that? And now Sam is let go because he didn't disclose something to the board that the board must have to do their job. You tell me what's going on there. I think this is way bigger than greed. I think there is something that has happened in that organization technologically that just went over to Microsoft, and it's way bigger than generative AI. It's way bigger than GPT as we understand it.
Mhm.
I think we're dealing with the beginning of AGI.
That's
I mean, I don't think they would be the only ones that could create. Okay, I went to ICML in Hawaii, this AI conference, very academic. Everybody said that superintelligence was complete nonsense and it was not happening. But
Until
assuming
it
it
does.
happened, there's no way that that knowledge only be at OpenAI. There's no way. If people, they,
Sure. No,
you know,
it's just who gets to the nuclear bomb first.
Yeah.
I mean, Russia was working on it, China,
but that's okay.
Japan, and Germany.
Yeah, we won't be able to stop, but I just don't think, whether Sam is there or not anymore will help anything. I think he was a genius at the beginning. I think that's his forte, right? I mean, but going forward, I don't really think it matters. And I think this whole nonprofit structure is actually a bit of a weight on the leg of OpenAI and a disadvantage to them. It's too complicated for decision making. That's what I think,
So what I'm
I just
excited
wonder-
about on this news is, to me, I'm hearing the beginning of AGI.
AGI, yes.
That's the story here.
I don't know whether to be excited or scared.
I'm shitting
Because-
bricks.
Yeah, because well, what I was going to comment that we haven't heard much from the regulatory front, but I guarantee that's going to play a big role in, at least in the above board market for AI. Right, there may be a black market that leverages illegal, outlawed capabilities, but yeah, scary.
So to add on that, I mean, one of the things I do believe is that it could be possible that they are using Microsoft platform and it was not required for AGI. They have some restriction there, and it could be possible that the models are the formulas, right? The model are the bread and butter for like a Coke recipe for anybody, right? So their Coke recipe was the model, and somehow it leaks to Microsoft. It could be a possibility, and nobody's going to talk about it because it's going to leak. But now AGI is something which would be a self-developing capability, right? So if somebody gets that model and they start building something on top of it, so that's the end of the OpenAI itself. So that makes sense, and that's where I do believe that Microsoft is a little bit giving leverages to Sam and Greg to work with them. It's totally makes sense, and on that point, AGI is coming. It's real, and one thing we always forget that the technology, the GPUs today has more power. GPUs are the oil industry now, right? So whoever build the model fast, building the model fast does not require two people, but it requires more computing power, right? So if you're building something with more computing power, the training of AGIs, if OpenAI was doing with 4 GPUs, Microsoft can do it with 100 GPUs. They have that power, so they're gonna come before OpenAI and release that AGI if the product or whatever the model was taken, it been moved to Microsoft somehow, or maybe something gone there. So yeah, that makes sense. And the last comment here for me would be that it reminds me one of the movies I'm watching with the Tom Hanks, where he built a robot with a little bit of information, and I think that is what AGI looks like. In if we talk about today's world, I'll paste the name of that movie. It was like Tom Hanks and the robot and the dog left in the world, and there was nobody else. So that is the picture of AGI in today's world.
It's so hard for me to judge, as a simple businessman. If I had a PhD in machine learning and deep learning, and the only thing I have to go by is what people told me, and they say super intelligence is not happening. That they try to train models on models and it doesn't work. But hey, I don't know. I don't think that I will be able to do anything about it anyway. Yeah. But do you guys think it's going to be doomsday, really? If we have super intelligence, that it's going to be to the worst? It's going to be terrible for us?
I don't know what it's going to mean, but I think what we're watching is the response to the emergence of superintelligence.
Could be.
I think that's what happened in OpenAI. Have they cornered the market? Oh, I don't know. I don't care, because I don't need to bet on that. But I do think, Gustavo, you've put your finger on something. I think each of us have to figure out, do we think it's realistic or not, and under what timeline? Because if that bet is a really important bet, and I think we all kind of need to make a bet on that because of the implications of it.
Yeah, but I guess I think, what impact would AGI have? What jobs are at risk? What businesses are at risk? What nefarious activities could be initiated? Right. That's the lens I'm looking through. Not all industries would be impacted. Not all jobs. Not all people. Right. There's a certain sector that are very, very plugged in. And that's the risk, right? Those would be at risk.
Well, Todd, what they say is the risk is really, you watch the movie Terminator, right? Is that a machine improves itself without our.
I get it. I understand the algorithm can improve into new algorithms, but are we really going to have a takeover of manufacturing and mining and refining? And I don't think so. We're not going to have machines making plastics, making copper wire without the aid of humans, right? That's
Agreed.
not going to happen.
Agreed.
So I think the algorithm piece, and again, nefarious activity, and maybe breaking through firewalls and pushing launch buttons and things like that. Maybe some of that's a real risk, but we're not going to have the Terminator, right? Machines can't take over factories. Machines can shut down factories, but not take over factories and create new prototypes and whatnot.
Syed, so there's Todd just brought up the the idea of one way to look at it, what spaces you can think of in terms of industries are more affected by AGI. What if you look at verticals, like in an IT organization? What are the implications of AGI on an IT organization, for an organization that's already cloud, has a lot of its infrastructure in the cloud, say?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, I would see myself as individual, right? So one of the risks I would have definitely talked about as a general risk is that when human are influenced by the decision taken by the AI would be the biggest risk. That's what being said right today. I have to go to the next meeting, for example, and AI said, no, this is not a relevant meeting. You can deny. And I'm looking at it, but AI went and they declined the meeting because AI thought that that's not the right meeting, right? And I was okay with that decision because AI took it for me. That would be the risk.
But we're influenced today on social, using with social media.
Yes,
we're influenced already by AI.
Exactly the point. So that's exactly the point, is that AI would be that part. Now the is there that okay, I got dependent to that AI, and now who is controlling that model and what is their biases on that model would be the risk. So that is where, all ethical AI and everything comes into the picture. And that's again a good discussion. We should have that discussion maybe for the next time, Drew. Let's keep that discussion. The thing in IT, what's gonna change here is that today I'm as a person, I'm a CEO of a company, and I wanted to make a decision on some investments. I just type like, let's make a decision on the investments of this particular OpenAI. Like I want to buy an OpenAI, and I'm going to give some this, like I'm going to open the box. Like how can I buy the OpenAI, right? So generative AI, it goes back in. It's not only going to gather the data, but it's also start creating the system for me, right? Today, we build systems for decision making, but AI goes into cloud. It says like I'm going to go into technology, EC2 servers. We have analytics, we have Tableau, we have different combinations out there. So AI would go there, run the commands, and build those systems by itself, and do the manipulation and give the results to the CEO and showing them that this is what I recommend. So now recommendation, and once the recommendation comes into it, CEO says, okay, if CEO is a good person, they would not rely 100% on AI recommendation. They would click on the insights. So once they click on the insights, again, that is somebody from the technology used to do that. But those insights are coming again that are driven. Manipulation is being done by AI itself and giving those results as an insight. Now it says, okay, insight is here, and I want to see the future, how the future looks like. So now the third thing is there is the simulation. So they're gonna play with the simulation. Okay, what does the OpenAI look like in 2025? What does the share looks like, right? Those simulations being created before by the people, but if it go back into the cloud, it would just select whatever the tools are required. The scripts today, if I want to build a cloud, we call it a cloud formation in AWS. I write a script that it will run Tableau server right away, right? And once the work is done, it will kill the Tableau server. So we write those scripts. So those scripts will be automated. It will bring in the big system, which we used to create in like 6 months. The system will be there. They look into it, and CEO says destroy the system. They click on it, and system will get destroyed. So this is where the technology looks like. This is where it's gonna head to, and the jobs which will be impacted would be the solution architects, cloud formation architects, XYZ. So they will definitely get impact. I'm not going to say impacted here is that if they're smart enough, because again, it's going to take some time. They will not rely on AI 100%. And I was thinking about, again, we talked about reliability of AI, and then ethical AI, and then responsible AI, all of these. We can definitely discuss this, but this would be impacted in technology.
So we have 5 minutes left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a poll for everyone to weigh in on their thoughts on continuing this conversation, and in what way in future meetings, how to make it productive for us as a group. And but I want to make sure that we have time for anybody who wants to do a stand up to get one in before the meeting is over. So the floor is open.
So, one of the things I would say is that I'm working on the blog, right? Not the blog, but I would say we talked about it, the podcast, right? And this could be a great discussion if we can initiate a kind of a podcast. So I'm working on it and looking for collaborating as well. So that is something it's in my plate. So I'm definitely going to talk about it. Other than that, after OpenAI, one of the things we can discuss is the chatbots, which OpenAI talked about, where it's going to impact the other orchestration tool like LangChain and all that. We can definitely, talk about it in our next conversation too.
Excellent.
It's a very fast-moving field, isn't it?
Yeah. How much time do we have, Drew? Like 4 minutes? It's over, right?
Yeah, we have 4 minutes. We tend to do 2-minute stand-ups. I'm not going to do one today. We have 5 people in here, so go 2 minutes. We don't all have to get them in today.
Yeah.
So if you want to go, Gustavo, you got a couple of minutes.
Well, yeah, sure. I've been looking at from a practical level. If I want to take an image of if I want to train DALI, right? On if I want to train DALI on a specific person, so that let's say I take 100 photos of a specific individual, and I basically wanted to be able to regenerate that individual, but that it has to look as well as much as possible like that individual in different scenarios and settings. Has anybody done that? Has anybody worked on something like that? That's the only thing. So basically using the API, OpenAI API, DALI API,
Mhm.
with your specific training set, so it can generate more images like the one you gave it, but from a different angle. Has anybody ever worked on that?
Not me.
I haven't. No.
Okay.
I created a poll. It just disappeared. Did anybody see a poll?
No.
I did click on the open button, but it's gone.
Oh shit! I think I just somehow deleted it. I'll recreate it. Oh, there it is.
Yes, Gustavo, just to answer on that comment, I mean, for generative AI, and if you want to train the model, right? So training is a little bit different there because that's a lot of information, right? We could not train that, right? So you have to come up with your own model, very small model, and then you have to see what you want to bring it from generative AI. For example, I mean, you have particular image, right? You're gonna
Is that
prompt for that.
embedding? So yet, is that called embedding? What I want to try to do?
No, the vector embedding is different from like what you want to do. Image embedding would be there. Yeah, sorry, image embedding. Yes, you would do that absolutely. But again, you would not be able to train that into the main language model, right? You have to bring in your own small model, train that, and send that request like what Drew's did it right on the RAG site. Maybe take that, create your own model, right? Explain what image looks like. Once you are perfect that this is the image looks like, send that image to the Gen AI and ask the question on top of it. So that's how you would do it. You do not want to train the regular model, but rather than train your small model and then take that and ask the question with the Gen AI.
Oh, interesting. But if I would train that individual, so let's say I have an avatar that now I can get from, and basically, so OpenAI would create the scenery, for example, or the clothes, or
Mhm.
all the general stuff it has been trained on. But the
Mhm.
individual that I want to have featured, that would be separate, right?
That would be separate, yes. You can merge that, and the good example here is that if you see the model they have trained in Canva, right? Canva has a model they have trained already. So you can go and ask for something from Gen AI, it will bring it up, and then you would ask to add the logo there. So they would add the logo, but it would not be coming from Gen AI, it would be like Canva's model.
Thank you.
Are you guys seeing the poll by any chance?
Let me see in the chat. Is it tactic.io?
No.
Okay, cool.
Moderate, create a poll, view poll report.
Lending.ai?
No, that's in the chat. So on the bottom right of your screen, there's a little thing that looks like 3 shapes. The top's a triangle, then a box and a circle.
Mhm.
It's right next to the chat
Yep.
one. If you click on that,
Polls. Okay, there it
you
is.
can click vote. After you click vote, you can't change your response. Tip. Anyway.
Do you think about AGI as a subject for upcoming matter? Yes, please. Yeah.
So Gustavo, can you repeat kind of what you're looking to do?
Well, it basically, okay, so it just, it's just an idea. I would like to, from what I understand, these diffusion models, they they can create an image by looking at the examples. So I was thinking, if you just and there's this whole thing about copyright, right? They take a lot of images from the web and they create a person that doesn't exist. So let's say I want to have an executive that looks, you know, I don't know, take Bill Clinton. I want to have Bill Clinton in Speedos, right? How do I tell the model to, but Bill Clinton is a famous person. The model knows how it looks like. What if it's an unknown person? What if it's, you know, your grandparents? What if you want your grandparents, you know, to look as if they're still alive? And how are you able to import that object of your grandparent, of yourself, into a diffusion model, whereby the diffusion model dresses the person, puts them in a plane or in a car, on a motorcycle, or on skis, but it uses the image you gave it when it's not a famous person, when it's just a random person that, or yourself. You know, do you take 1 million photos of yourself? How do you train that? And how do you work with the ChatGPT, with the OpenAI API to make that available? That's basically the question.
I don't know the answer to that, but that technology is a bit ahead of the Gen AI stuff. There's some fairly mature technology there. It's basically, you know, what you'd use to do a deep fake. So I would say, look up no code deep fake and see what you get.
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah. And I don't know if it uses stable diffusion as a model or not, but you know, you should be able to. That's pretty mature. I want to say mature technology, but there's a lot of like good stuff out there, including no code tools to go down that path.
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so oh, look at that. We've got, everyone feels that AGI is a good thing to talk about. But it looks like there's a desire among several people to.
Who breaks the tie?
Sort of. Well, I think it warrants then further discussion on how we want to approach it. Because I mean, you know, it could become soap opera pretty quickly, right? We want to make sure that this we're practitioners, right? So we want to make sure this is productive for us, and that we can, you know, use it to get shit done. Basically,
you can endlessly hypothesize, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's fine too. But I'd rather be drinking beer than coffee when I do that. So, and I know you guys would too. So
how do you see oh, I see the poll. I got it.
Oh, Gustavo, you've got a lot of power right now. You're like Joe Manchin like a year ago.
What?
So unless you vote, yeah, you've got a lot of power. But anyway, I think what we should do is have a discussion about it. And figure out what parameters we want to set up to make it productive and worthwhile in time for everyone. So we'll do that at our next meeting. And if you have thoughts on how you want to have that discussion or any opinion, share them with me beforehand or bring it in the meeting, and we'll go that route. That brings us over 1 o'clock. I apologize to everyone. As usual, the group stays open if anybody wants to continue to discuss. But I think that's a wrap for today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great to see everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving if you're in the US.
Yes. Bye.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Yeah.